Good morning. Today is May 5, 2025, and I am a targeted veteran, a non-consensual test subject for over 30 years. The government is attacking me in retaliation, retaliation against federal law, and retaliation to try to cover up their 30-year crime of espionage. Okay. And you're asking, well, how do you know they're attacking you? Well, I'm using a spectrum analyzer. Okay. Spectrum analyzers are used to record Havana syndrome. Okay. I'm here lying in my bedroom and I'm being trespassed of my property of a satellite used by SpaceX and their Stargate. I don't consent to it. I never have, never will. I don't consent to their implants. I don't consent to their spying. I don't consent to, I am not your science project. I don't consent to it. Okay. I was bribed a disability pension wrongfully diagnosed by the VA so that way Elon Musk and the federal government can spy on me with their SpaceX station, attacking me with satellites and drones and electronic warfare, neighborhood gang stalking, Havana syndrome, aka a coup. It is a coup when you attack Americans in violation of federal law, in violation of the Geneva Convention, to allow criminals to hunt me down, to spy on me, to track me, to steal my thoughts, in violation of the 5th and 4th Amendment, okay? And violation of the 14th Amendment, equal protection, okay, of the law. You've been doing this for over 30 years without my consent, stealing my thoughts, using me as a involuntary servitude without compensating me. I don't consent. You stole my thoughts. You stole my life. I don't consent. I'm using an Apple iPhone S16, okay? And I'm using a compass. I'm using a compass to determine. I was in the military, okay? I know the direction of fire as a motorman, okay? I'm using a satellite. There's 2 satellites attacking me. One is located approximately 312 degrees northwest, okay? 309 degrees northwest. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is located 197 degrees, 209 degrees southwest. Okay, 2 satellites that are watching over me, attacking me. Okay, and like I said, I'm using a spectrum analyzer. Okay, they're showering my quarters, showering my residence with microwave energy weapons, direct energy weapon, neurological weapons. And I'm using a spectrum analyzer made by Apple. Okay, you can get it on Apple. It's called Decibel X. It's a spectrum analyzer. Okay, and I can record the activity that's trespassing my home. Okay, I'm going to whistle first so you can see the consistency of the frequency. It's infinity. Okay, they're dialed into one frequency to attack me. Ready? I'm going to whistle. You see how it spikes? It spikes when I whistle. This is a quiet home. There should be no noise in here. There's a constant frequency that's trespassing my home to attack me. After I'm done whistling, there should be no noise as the whistle diminishes. This line right here, the blue line, is infinity. It's the same constant frequency dialed in to attack you with satellites at the same frequency level. Okay, it's nonstop. It's always waking me up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with the attacks. They're attacking me on the road. They're attacking me here at home. They're attacking me on the job. They drove me out of my job at the at-home warehouse here in New Braunfels. I was working at the at-home warehouse and they attacked me where I lost my job. These people don't care. The fusion centers are corrupt. There's no need for fusion centers. Okay, we're no longer terrorists. Fusion centers belong to FISA. I am not a foreigner. I'm a disabled veteran, okay? Why is my government attacking me? You know, we were promised no more non-consensual test subjects, and I have to use a library again. We were promised no more non-consensual test subjects, and here we are being targeted and tortured again. And I have to constantly remind you that we were promised to be there would be no more torture, there would be no more targeting. But you're attacking me with the damn coup in this neighborhood, trying to kill me to cover up your act of espionage. When will you stop attacking me? When? I don't consent. When will you stop torturing me? When do I have the right to due process of a law? When do I have the right to an attorney to represent me for your legal spying? When do I have the right to file charges against my government for espionage, illegal eavesdropping and wiretapping, spying, tracking, and torture? When is my due process allowed? I have to constantly remind you we were promised a task force. We were promised equal protection of the law. When is that going to happen? Huh? When is that going to happen? When are we going to have equal protection of the law? We were promised that. We were promised equal protection.
Biggest violations of medical ethics ever perpetrated on U.S. citizens. This week, medical experts and others are meeting to make sure something like this never happens again. And leading that effort is Amy Gutmann. She heads the Presidential Commission for the Study of Bioethical Issues, and she is also the president of the University of Pennsylvania. Dr. Gutmann, thanks for being with us. This is not a single incident. We've actually had many of these things happen. What is the purpose of your commission? Are we worried that these types of things are still happening today?
Allie, we can't know whether these things are happening today unless we have a fact-finding mission, and that's what President Obama has asked the Presidential Commission on Bioethics to do, to actually meet with experts and ask them, what is it today that would prevent these things from happening again? They've happened too many times in our history, and we want to make sure, and the president wants to make sure, that we can assure the American public that if they are part of a scientific experiment or a medical experiment, they will be treated with respect and fairly. So we don't know right now how the United States is relative to the rest of the world, and that's why the president has asked me to convene an international task force of experts. And those experts are going to sit down with me, and we're going to actually discuss how different countries and the United States fare in this regard. And we should come up with a report by year's end that can inform the public as well as the president of where we stand.
Okay, we know you're having more hearings in May. We'll follow this along with you. Very curious to see what happens. Dr. Amy Gutmann is the chair of the Presidential Commission for the Study of Bioethical Issues and the president of the University of Pennsylvania.
To do is just very quickly go around and have the committee.
Broken promises. You had President Barack Obama, who was a lawyer. President Barack Obama went to law school on the taxpayer expense. President Barack Obama's mansions was paid by the taxpayer. And here we are asking for one simple executive order to protect us all, to preserve our constitutional rights and our freedom, and he fails the American people. Okay? We were promised overs and overs again. President after president pawning off this 70-year silent war against Americans, where all you've done is paid whistleblowers millions of taxpayers' dollars. It's fraud, racketeering, human trafficking. When will it stop? Broken promises, year after year for 70 years. It's a racket. It's a RICO. President Bill Clinton, once again, another broken promise when he was in office. To stop the non-consensual test subject, there would be no more, they're attacking me, there would be no more non-consensual test subjects, okay? We were promised it overs and overs again, but here we are fighting for our lives, fighting for freedom as a non-consensual test subject. I don't consent to that. You're using a satellite? How do I defend myself against a satellite, Mr. Elon Musk? How? How do I defend myself? Huh? You may ask yourself that. Once again, broken promises by lawyers and presidents. You know, you have lawyers that represent the American people. When will it stop? When will it stop? Okay? You're attacking children in schools. When will it stop? Broken promises, overs and overs again. We have to be reminded, okay? Broken promises.
And they must stay open. You have recognized the price of secrecy in research for what it is, a legacy of cynicism and a legacy of distrust. If we are to keep faith with those who have suffered, we must do everything possible to guarantee that what happened to them never happens again. The committee learned that research safeguards have come a long way since the Second World War. Americans can and should feel much more secure about medical research today, but the system remains imperfect. I urge you to carefully review the committee's findings and recommendations. Both the government and research institutions must do all they can to protect our fellow citizens. If this committee's work is to mean anything, it has to be that 50 years from now, there does not have to be another presidential committee charged with investigating allegations of abuses of human subjects. There should never be another such advisory committee. Information must not be...
There should never be another such advisory committee to investigate the non-consensual test subject. Broken promises by lawyers, pawning off the 70-year silent war only to compensate whistleblowers for 70 years, okay? You cannot get away with that, all right? We are not science projects. We don't consent as you make a profit off the American people and not compensate your American people. You stole our thoughts, you wrongfully diagnosed us to keep you in your project, okay? In your MK Ultra project, as you medicate us, wrongfully diagnose us, and torture us to death. When is it going to stop? When will it stop? Broken promises, okay? And you may ask yourself, but where's your evidence? Well, I'm going to let you hear the testimony of a CIA whistleblower who says that Americans are being targeted and tortured, okay? And you cannot deny this, okay? Because this whistleblower went to Congress, went to the Senate, and you ignored him, okay? You failed to allow him to present his argument, okay? And it's that simple. It's that simple.
Wix, one platform, any website.
It's that simple. You're neglecting to protect the lives of American people.
Target very.
Okay? You've neglected the American people, and it's not right. It's unconstitutional because we can't defend ourselves. You're making us look like we're crazy. We don't consent. Never have, never will. But you are making us look like we're crazy.
Yeah. Just over 3 years ago, it started.
Dr. Robert Duncan will be speaking after Dr. Lynn Bear. And
was diagnosed in 2020 with vestibular dysfunction due to directed energy exposure by the same team of experts that diagnosed Cuban diplomats.
Duncan?
Yes.
I have an Ivy League background, education, and I've been studying and human rights activism for what is now currently termed Havana syndrome. But this has been going on for quite some time. I worked for DARPA on projects for the CIA, for the Navy, for example, wrote the Artificial Intelligence Code, tracked the Soviet nuclear submarine fleet. But about 20 years ago, I realized some of my research was being utilized on my own citizens. And that was unacceptable to me. And since then, I've done hundreds of interviews, interviewed 2,500 victims or targeted individuals, as they're called, found commonalities of all their stories. And I've spoken to with the head of the LA FBI, to the Senate Intelligence Committee, 23 senators and representatives, with some interest. And I said, just wait when it starts happening to their agents, diplomats, and the FBI. So interestingly, a story came out yesterday that it's happening to the FBI now.
What is your educational background?
I have an MBA from Dartmouth, a Master's of Science from Harvard, PhD in Applied Sciences, Computer Science, Artificial Intelligence, pre-medical in engineering, and other classes from Stanford, Duke, and MIT. So.
Okay, so you have Dr. Robert Duncan, who is a well-educated man, well-educated beyond me. Okay, you can't be making this stuff up, folks. You can't. And on top of that, you have a doctor from my hometown, from San Antonio, Texas, Dr. John Hall, who also told President Barack Obama that Americans are being targeted. But Dr. Robert Duncan wrote 2 books. Okay, we're going to go back to Dr. Robert Duncan, then we'll get into Dr. John Hall. Okay, Dr. Robert Duncan wrote 2 books, and those 2 books are they're able to be accessed by Congress and by the Senate. Okay, there's Dr. Robert Duncan. He worked for the CIA, and Dr. Robert Duncan wrote 2 books. He wrote the book, it's called Robert Duncan, How to Tame a Demon. He wrote the book Project Soulcatcher. Okay. And Dr. Robert Duncan also testified. He told me personally, because I went undercover, I asked him, I said, Dr. Robert Duncan, I said, when can you stop all this? Okay. And he said to me, and you can read that right there. I said, what do you think about stopping satellite weapons and torturing Americans? He said, the systems will never be taken offline. It is a psychotronic Cold War race to collect mind samples. If it is taken offline, it will be because the populations have decided to accept chips in their bodies for more direct control. This is the words of Dr. Robert Duncan. And you'll get a copy posted. Okay, I'll post that to the argument. Okay, but he says over and over again that he knows for a fact that Americans are being targeted. He testified again to the governor of Minnesota. The governor of Minnesota took his testimony, and he said for a fact that they're attacking Americans. We're going to watch that here.
The Brain Invaders conspiracy. Dr. Robert Duncan put together the technology that allows the government to transmit thoughts and voices into the heads of Americans.
Dr. Robert Duncan. First question for you. What's negative about what you've done?
I've empowered the dark side by some of my work.
And what do you mean by that?
Technology is neutral.
Right.
It can be used for good or evil. I've worked on projects for the CIA, Justice Department, Department of Defense.
Is this the stuff, voices in the head and things like that?
Yes.
We've run into a few people that claim they got voices in their heads, they sleep inside tinfoil boxes, they do a lot of crazy things, it seems. But when they talk to us, they seem totally normal. They seem totally sane. Are these people crazy, or is the government doing this to them?
The government's doing this to them.
He's not even bothering to hide it.
They're called voice of God weapons.
So you know for a fact that these weapons that you worked on, they're being used domestically today?
Absolutely. You have to remember, the CIA has a long history of experimenting on our citizens, from LSD.
Sure. Okay, we're talking here like going back to MK Ultra and all that in the 60s and 70s. But we were told all that stopped. Is that untrue?
Untrue. These programs continue under new names, new budgets. It's the ultimate weapon.
Are there citizens of this country that are being abused with this technology?
Worse than abused, that's a light word. They're being tortured.
Okay, so once again, this is Dr. Roberts' testimony, okay? He first testified that he does believe that he saw that Americans are being targeted, and he testified to the governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura, okay? So you can't make this up. My argument is that I know for a fact that it's happening to me in my hometown. You just saw the evidence. But I also want you to see the evidence of Dr. John Hall. Dr. John Hall is from my hometown. He is from my hometown. Okay? I cannot be making this up. This is a doctor. This is an expert, an anesthesiologist who swore that Americans and himself, see, they're attacking me again, and himself, they're being targeted. Okay? Like I am. You know, I got that constant satellite beaming down on me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as I've been falsely in prison, mentally incarcerated. As I try to tell Congress. I filed a lawsuit. I told the FBI. I went to Congress. I went to the Senate, okay? And I went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and still, we don't believe you. Go see the VA, okay? We're going to talk about the VA as well, okay? Because that's a fraud, okay? Dr. John Hall is a doctor from San Antonio, Texas, okay? And he wrote a book. He testified to President Barack Obama, and I'm going to show you the facts. Because nothing but facts. I'm giving you nothing but evidence that beyond a reasonable doubt that Americans are being attacked here in our hometown. This is Dr. John Hall, okay? Dr. John Hall from San Antonio, Texas. He wrote the book, okay? He wrote the book. He wrote the book, Guinea Pigs. And Dr. John Hall, from his office, testified that Americans have been attacked here in San Antonio, where I'm from, my hometown. So his complaint supersedes my complaint and makes it legit, okay? I can't be making this up. He's a doctor, for crying out loud.
I'm Dr. John Hall. I'm a medical doctor in San Antonio, Texas, author of The New Breed, Satellite Terrorism in America. The book is about my experience with a female target in San Antonio, Texas, that was the victim of what we think is a satellite-based tracking and harassment system based on directed energy weaponry and electromagnetic weaponry used by the government. My impetus for writing the book was to expose the fact that this technology is being used nationwide.
Okay, but Apple's notorious for blocking my free speech. They stop my time. They run down my battery. These are new iPads. I don't have a bunch of junk on here, but you're trying to destroy that. The VA, back to the VA, they knew about the attacks on Americans. Okay, there's a veteran by the name of Gerald Sosby. Okay, Gerald Sosby was a FBI agent / Army veteran. And Gerald Sosby complained to the VA, okay? He complained to the VA that he was targeted by satellite-based weapons, okay? But you failed to listen to his case. And he pleaded to the VA that, yes, we are being targeted and tortured, okay? Gerald Sosby is an FBI agent. Gerald Sosby is an Army veteran and former FBI agent. And he told, there's his evidence. We have an affidavit. We're going to give to you the affidavit. Okay? We're going to give you his affidavit. You'll see the affidavit, and you'll see his complaint to the VA. Okay? You'll see his complaint to the VA. And we're going to stick with just the meat and potatoes. I want you to see that right there. The VA has known about this for a long time now, okay? The VA has known about this for a long time, okay? We've known about this silent war and microwaves for a long time now. And I'm going to close out by this, okay? In 1972, the U.S. Navy classified radio sickness. The VA, in a psychological journal, knew about microwaves and behavior. They knew about microwaves and behavior. But you wrongfully diagnosed me, medicate me, destroying my life, making me like a zombie, losing my mind. I'm being targeted and tortured, going insane. I'm institutionalized, I'm institutionalized for your fake fraud for 70 years. When is it going to stop? When will you stop all this? I'm not a science project. I don't consent. I'm a non-consensual test subject to your science project for over 30 years. You falsely imprisoned me, mentally incarcerated, and tortured me, destroying my life, destroying my family life. You carried me and my family all through this bullshit of attacking Americans. I don't consent. Please stop torturing me. Thank you. And God bless America. And I want to end by this. I want to say a prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thank you, dear Lord. Please stop the torturing, dear God. Please put these people back in the frame of mind. Allow them to understand that we have a Constitution and we have a Geneva Convention to abide by. And we should not be breaking our own rules and establishing a coup against Americans. Thank you, and God bless America.